been searching for the best way to generate passive income in your life and heard that real estate is a great way to do it. But you're tired of all the so-called gurus who are all talk and no substance. Get ready to celebrate because Kevin Buck has spent 14 years successfully making it happen. This is the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Now, here's Kevin Buck.
Hey guys, Kevin Buck here, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow podcast. Our mission is to help you build and maintain massive amounts of cash flow through income-producing real estate investments. And our guest for this week's show is businessman, entrepreneur, and philanthropist, Vince Guzzo. Now, Vince is a Canadian entrepreneur who currently serves as CEO of Guzzo Cinemas, Guzzo Construction, and Guzzo Medical and Guzzo Hospitality. Vince received national attention in 2018 when he joined the cast of CBC Television business reality series Dragon's Den as one of the investors. Additionally, Vince's group is the largest movie operator in Quebec with 141 screens in 10 locations and the third largest in Canada. And so with that, guys, I'm excited to welcome Mr. Vince Guzzo to the show. Vince, how you doing today?
I'm all right. Yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Life is beautiful. I'm breathing. I'm living. We're here together. So life is good, my friend. So excited to have you here. As I mentioned to you, of all the 500 plus shows that we've done here over the last 7 years of doing this podcast, you will be the first to come on that has the background and experience and has scaled a significant size cinema or theater company. So very excited to talk about that niche, that industry, and obviously you've got a very expansive background as well outside of the theater business. So we'll dive into that a little bit as well. But first and foremost, for those that might not be familiar with you, that don't know you, your story, your background, what have you, maybe take a few minutes, tell us a little bit more about yourself and ultimately how you landed in the cinema space.
So, I'm an only child, and my dad went from a machinist at Pratt & Whitney in 1974 and bought himself a theater. And so we started being in the movie business. And then when I wanted to be a lawyer and go and be Harvey Specter in New York City, I was told, well, we got a family business here. What did we do all of the sacrifice for? So I got into the movie business and started using my economics degree from Western and my law degree, to change things in the business and adapt our business to changing times. Then from there, we decided that the best way to build theaters is to build them ourselves. We had the expertise and we could build it cheaper. And we did that. And then from, building movie theaters, we actually started buying real estate and owning not only the theaters, but also surrounding real estate. And then from there, we got into the medical space because, instead of just giving money away for medical research, I thought I'd make it more capital efficient. And as an investor now, I have the right to tell you you're wasting my money. So do this differently versus just a straight donation. And that's how we got into that space. And then the hospitality business was just a natural complementary business to the theater business. Mm-hmm. And from there, we spun off another division that now does retail food distribution and production. And so we've created a brand around the Mr. Sunshine and around the Giulietta, which is our pizzeria outlets.
Is that pizzeria outlet, is that tied into your theaters, or is that a standalone?
Right. No. So right now what we've done is they're standalone, but they are connected to our movie theaters. So, so if you want to come to the pizza store, you can go just to the pizza store. You don't have to go through the theater, but it's a complementary business in the sense that we are pricing and determining food types based on the clients we have in our theaters.
Got it. No, it makes sense. And you also did a short stint, 2 years on Dragon's Den. Tell me about that.
3 years.
Period of time.
It's my third year.
Okay. Fantastic. Tell me about it. Just the experience, how many businesses you end up investing in, what have you?
Well, so, the nice thing about that is I was asked to be on that. It was a number of years I was being asked to be either on the French-Canadian one or the English one. And so ultimately I didn't think, I said, the people probably know me better in Quebec, so let me do the French one. But, Sony and CBC pushed for the English, so I did it. The first year was a little awkward. In other words, you're there, and you don't know. There's only so much you can say and not say without having, getting in trouble until I realized that they do edit the show. So I could say bad things and not be not be in trouble at the end of the day, right? That's the key. What's interesting about that, that part-time job, as I call it, is it's become pretty much a full-time job because of Dragon's Den. Now, instead of having 5 or 10 deals pitched at me a year, I now have 10, 15 a week being pitched at me. So I actually have a whole team now looking at those deals on a regular basis, continuous basis. And the first thing we do is we try and combine it with what we already have. So it's sort of a vertical integration. And then we try and, spin off in other sectors that we think are growth sectors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you what the afterlife looks like after being on Dragon's Den if deals continue to come your way, but I think you just you answered that for us quite well. And now you got a team behind you to help filter out the good from the bad.
And we're working on season 16, so it's not over yet. I guess
they
haven't announced it yet officially that the show's re-airing, but I'm strong belief that they're doing now virtual pitches and everything. So we'll be back for season 16.
Out of those 15 deals, approximately 15 deals a week, I mean, on any given, yearly basis, what would you say, number one, how many of those, what percentage really gets your attention? And out of the ones that get your attention, which are the ones that ultimately get your investment?
So I would tell you that there's about 3 a month that get my attention and 1 a month closes. And about 2 a year, I personally mentor or get, involved in the operations of them versus the other ones I just, pass off to team members and ask for updates quarterly or so forth. But there's few passion projects that I get personally involved in.
Gotcha. Speaking back to Dragon's Den, more specifically of the successes and failures of the failures, and maybe you haven't had any. Maybe none of the businesses you've actually invested in have failed as of yet, because again, it's only been a few years here.
Yeah.
Have there been any that haven't made it after you've given an investment?
No, because normally what happens is, and you have to remember, a lot of people don't realize this. We do a deal on air. And then we go through a strict due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem we have when we're, sitting there on those chairs is that we don't know. The only thing we know about you before you come to us is your name.
Yeah.
I don't know anything else about you. So I don't know what you're pitching. And so the first year, I did a lot more on-air deals than I did year 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because when I asked the question, what's your revenue? And somebody would say $2 million. I would say, geez, $2 million. 12 months, that's pretty good. And then when we did a due deal, it was really $2 million over 10 years. Well, that's not quite what I understood, right? So that's where we've refined the questions, year 2 and 3, and say, no, last 12 months, what is your revenue, right? And we've been, I've started being way more specific. And so I would tell you that with the due diligence, with the time that we pass after the deal's done on air, there's a lot of pitfalls that are sort of covered. So before we actually put the money in, we've pretty much ironed out any risk of not getting our investment back, or at least helping the person grow, right? It's happened to us to do a deal on air, not be able to close, and then close 2 years later. So I've done a deal where we didn't close on air. We continued discussing. We stopped discussing, and 2 years later, I just closed the deal in December with 3 sisters with a product called Real Layers that now is called Good Pantry. We just closed the deal now, and so we're probably going to be launching a whole brand new company, by September of this year, with a whole bunch of collaborations in the food space.
That's exciting. Speaking to that, or speaking to just general startups or existing businesses that you might be venturing in to partner with or what have you, or inject capital, what's more important to you, the actual business owner or the idea itself?
So for me, it's very important. The person with who I'm partnering up with is key. That is, you can have one of the best products in the world. I may try and buy the product off you, but I will not partner up with a nightmare partner, as I say, right? I mean, a lot of people don't realize that partnerships are like a marriage.
Yep.
Or marriages are like a partnership, either way, right? And the truth of the matter is, I'm already married. I don't need divorces, so like, let's keep this, and I'm 51 years old. I'd like to do things that I have fun doing, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's like, getting my wisdom teeth pulled, not interested. I just don't want to, right?
Life's too short, man.
That's right. Life's way too short. And especially after these last 12 months of COVID, it's even shorter in our minds. We want to do things that, yes, we can make money, but we have to enjoy what we're doing. And it doesn't have to be a living nightmare. Oh my God, it's this partner calling. I'd rather not take the call. I just don't want to deal with it, type of thing. We don't want to go there.
Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here with Sunrise Capital Investors. As you are hopefully already well aware if you've been a listener for any period of time, my goal has always been to provide you with as much value as I possibly can through my two podcasts, Real Estate Investing for Cash Flow and the Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast. As our audience continues to grow, literally, we've been downloaded millions of times by folks in over 125 countries. I've had thousands of people reach out looking to get involved in our niche, and that's the phenomenal niche of mobile home park investing. Now, for those that don't know, I've been a full-time real estate investor for more than 20 years now, and I've personally invested in and have owned apartment complexes, various commercial properties, hundreds of single-family rentals, and I've interviewed some of the most successful investors in just about every other asset class, and I've arrived at this one very simple conclusion. Mobile home parks are hands down the best investment I've found to date. Why? They provide investors with the best risk-adjusted returns out of any other real estate sector that I've seen. Investing in real estate can get complicated, and I really want to simplify this process for you. If you're someone who wants to diversify away from the uncertainty of Wall Street and allocate a percentage of your real estate portfolio to mobile home parks, but maybe don't have the time nor the inclination to personally locate good deals yourself, then our team will do it for you. At Sunrise Capital Investors, our team specializes in the acquisitions and management of undervalued and highly profitable mobile home parks. And we are now providing accredited investors with an opportunity to participate directly alongside our team in Growth and Income Fund 3. When you invest in our fund, you get immediate diversification into multiple deals we acquired off-market that are already performing and have built-in sweat equity. And let me say this, I believe that we are hands down the best in our space at sourcing highly profitable off-market deals. That's really what makes us unique in this niche and as investment managers. As stewards of your capital, we truly are aligned with our investors. We've structured our investment fund so that we as a company are incentivized in the same way the investor is, which is through the performance of the investment itself. In addition, we want to make sure that we not only make money for our investors, but that they understand how it's being made. That's why we provide our accredited partners with a private monthly podcast that walks them through the detailed updates on how their investment is performing. And we're very transparent, providing you with the good, the bad, and the ugly at times. And so if you'd like to learn more about the partnership opportunities with our team here at Sunrise, please visit us at investwithsunrise.com and request access to the investor presentation. It's absolutely free, and you'll get instant access to review the off-market deals that we've already purchased that you can co-own with our team. Also, feel free to call us at 833-CASH-FLOW without the O. Again, that's 833-227-4359. And our investor relations team will help you schedule an appointment to speak with one of our managing principals. If you have questions, go ahead and schedule the call. Let's jump on the phone. And with that, guys, I'd like to leave with one last thought. From the time that I wake up in the morning till the time that I lay my head down the rest of the evening, my number one priority with everything I do, whether it be recording this podcast, working for our investors, helping each of you reach your investment goals, to providing a great experience to each of our residents who reside in our communities, is to add huge amounts of value to everyone that I come in contact with. Now, with that being said, I look forward to the opportunity of bringing value to you through Sunrise and through this podcast. Thank you for your time. Now, let's go ahead and get back to the show. Man, you only live once, and none of us are promised tomorrow. So have fun while you're here. Have fun and enjoy life and business and everything that surrounds it. So
that's right.
Absolutely. So We're recording this on February 9th, 2021. Probably won't be released. Those that are listening to it now, it's probably going to be sometime late March, early April. And so, but I feel confidently that the word COVID is still going to be, spoken about. It's going to be a real thing. Vaccinations probably won't be 100% rolled out. I mean, they'll still be working through that throughout the world. And so, speaking to COVID as it relates to your business and more specifically, the theater business or cinema business.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, how you guys have fared through this time. Again, every state and every country has been very different on how they've handled things. How long the shutdowns have lasted, what the general climate is amongst, folks out and about, or are they staying at home, what have you. And so we're down in Florida. Florida's kind of made the news nonstop over this past year as far as, a little bit more of a free will state as far as our governor's concerned and the strictness of the various shutdowns. Whereas compared to California or New York, it's like a night and day difference. So where you're at, where your businesses are located, how have you guys fared here over the past year?
So, the problem that we've had is that in Quebec, where my theaters are located, I have to tell you, we have 50% of, the deaths of Canada, but we're only 22%. So on a logistics level, it's been a living nightmare. I mean, I think, this government can try and toot their horn all they want. I think they've failed in ways that, that it's even hard to describe, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're at 10,000 deaths for 8 million people. So it's a huge number. And so the problem that we've had is, irrespective of public health recommending that theaters remain open, because there is a benefit to going to the theater. There's, it's a positive impact on mental health, on anxiety issues. And it's also a socialization that doesn't require handshaking. It doesn't require actual talking to people because you're in the dark, all facing in the same direction. There's no real danger. But still, our government's decided to shut us down for perception more than anything else, right? If I'm going to tell you you can't have 10 people at your home, well, why would I accept 250 in a movie theater?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's all about perception. So it's been a tough run. What I think was the toughest was probably closing for 3.5 months, then reopening for 3 and reclosing now for almost 5 months. That's even worse, right? So, when this airs in April, will we be back to normal? Hopefully. What I can tell you is a lot of people don't realize movie theaters are not restaurants. We don't order produce and can transform it 48 hours later. We don't make movies. We show movies. Mm-hmm. So we've got to convince U.S. studios, Canadian distributors, Quebec distributors to give us produce to show. Mm-hmm. And they won't do that unless we can give them a certain synergy of what percentage of your theaters are open, right? We have to remember California and New York State represent each 12% of North American box office. All of Canada represents 10. So, if all of the theaters are closed in my state or my province, or major cities are shut, the suburb theaters or the boony theaters won't get any movies. So opening those theaters up while keeping Montreal theaters closed doesn't help anybody, because once you're open and nobody's coming, you're actually burning more cash.
Yeah.
Your burn rate's a lot higher than it is. So it's been a tough one. But, as I like to say, we've gotten through rough times, and this is just one of those rough times that we'll get through again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what type of design changes? And this is more speaking to any new product that might come out. I don't know if you guys were in the midst of any new developments or new theater builds, before COVID hit. But what do you think? Just if we could look forward to the future, a couple years, let's all hope and pray that cinemas make it through just fine, and everyone gets back to some type of normalcy here this year, 2021. Assuming that that's all the case, what type of design changes do you see coming down the pike as it relates to today's typical layout in the theater versus what it might look like here a couple years from now? You think there's going to be any?
So on a strictly permanent
construction basis, correct?
Absolutely nothing. And I know that people are going to say, "Oh my God, like these guys are not going to do anything for COVID." People need to remember that what has allowed humanity to exist these hundreds and thousands of years is its ability to repress these traumatic experiences. The truth of the matter is COVID's here. By the time we're all said and done, it probably will be 24 months out, from start to end. But the fact of the matter is that normality will come back. And there's no reason to expect that people will not shake hands again, that people will not hug again, right? So what we've done is temporary changes that are very equipment-based, but will they be there again, 36 months from now? I don't think so. So, we've all equipped ourselves of what we call electrostatic cannons to disinfect the auditoriums in between show times, so it takes 5 minutes. You basically bomb and blast the whole place, and it sort of fogs everything up and everything gets disinfected. That kind of stuff is going to get done. Will it get done in the future? Maybe, but I don't think it'll be done after every show, right? It'll probably get done as a sanitary reason. Say, you know what? Okay, we have cleaning crews, but this is the best way to really make sure everything's disinfected. Will we continuously have hand sanitizers again? Will we space out people more in the theaters? The truth of the matter is the business model doesn't work sometimes if you start doing things. So, you take VIP theaters, the business model just doesn't work. If you have a 75-seat auditorium, but really is a, 250 people space, the numbers there are totally different, right? So you've got to work things differently. So will the building of a theater change? No, I don't think so. I mean, we're in the midst of finishing the construction of a theater, and we didn't really factor in much change. What we have done is, just made, taking to bring in any last minute innovations that, hey, this might be cool, right? So if we've expanded our arcade areas, we took an extra 5,000 square feet. Now we have 15,000 arcade spaces because we had the time to look at things as we were building the theater. And because of the shutdowns, we had a lot more analyzing time. But per se, I mean, the HVAC systems are probably now have included, LED black light, to disinfect, more the air, circulating air, whatever. But that's stuff that I don't even think it's COVID related. I think it's more like, hey, we hadn't even realized that we had these advantages in some of the stuff out there.
Right.
And now we're just plucking it in because it makes sense to. But, seats will still be 24-inch wide seats, and leg room is still 48 inches. And we're still going to try and pack as many people as we can once we get back to normality, because that's how this business works, and that's where the numbers have to be.
So let's talk about getting people back. What, the industry as a whole, what is the plan to get the masses comfortable and excited to come back to the theaters? Have you, I'm sure I was about to ask, have you given thought to that? Yes, you've given thought to it. You've given a ton of thought to it over the past, 12 plus months. And so what does that look like? Incentives, how do you get the excitement reared up again, to the masses to get them excited to come back, get the heck out of their houses and come watch a movie with friends, with family, what have you?
So I don't think we're going to have to do a lot of work getting them convinced to leave their house. I think we're just going to have to do a lot of work to try and reconvince people that going to the theaters is a safe outing. Because the truth of the matter is many of the governments that did shut down theaters, I think wrongfully exaggerated the risk factor. Like I said, you're in a seat, you're not moving, you're confined, you're not really, it's not a live concert where you're dancing, jumping. It's not Woodstock when you go to the theaters, right? I mean, people aren't like, so I think that's where the problem's going to be. I think we're going to have to re-explain to people that going to the theaters is a safe going experience. I think public health will have a lot to do with it. I think ultimately, we had a harder time getting people back into the theaters after 3 months of closure. We'll have an easier time after 12 because I think now we've watched everything on Crave, on Amazon, and on Netflix, and now we really want to go out. But we will, like I said, need 4 weeks for studios to actually be able to sell, their product and make sure that the awareness for, the next Black Widow is out or the next, big Hollywood picture is out, which will be the draw all the time, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people go to the movies in Canada, at least. It's not, not necessarily the same in the US. I mean, going to the movies in the US is a religion. I mean, whether it's nice, cloudy, or whatever, you go to the movies on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In Canada, it's not always like that. It's more title driven. It's not necessarily platform driven or outing driven, but I think it will be. I think people will, like every great pandemic or every great war, there will be a boom right after in the entertainment space, restaurants and so forth.
Yeah.
So at that level there, we'll just have to be ready to manage the flow as it comes in, because what you don't want is we will probably open at a 50% capacity. So you don't want to be negligible and make a mistake and somebody gets sick or whatever, right? So, that's going to be a factor, but I think the real selling point will be that it's safe to go to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people know that it is. And I think that a lot of people are saying we may have overly not dramatized as in the sense that the numbers aren't correct, but overly put attention on the negative of the numbers versus the positive of the amount of people that have survived, right? So, if you're mentioning you're in Florida, and so if I have to say something that I'm impressed about Florida is considering the high age demographic in Florida, you would think that it would have paralyzed that state, but it didn't. And that's a testament to the resilience of humanity and of people that live in Florida to say, hey, look, we understand that we're at risk. We understand that the age group may be such that, we're at a higher risk, but hey, we're not going to stop living here, right? I mean, we've got to live. I mean, we're not going to become crazy over something that you just need to be diligent and careful. And I think that that's the message that theater operators will have to deliver going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Florida is a very good case study in comparison to, highly affected areas such as California, New York. I mean, we're at the opposite ends of the spectrum of how we handled things. And, you could have criticized the governor in the early stages of this, that was the wrong way to go. But now as we look at the numbers, really our trends are much lower than that of, again, still states like a California within New York as far as newly infected cases or newly registered cases, however you want to classify it. And so again, not to go down that rabbit hole, but I feel pretty proud to be in Florida and happy that we've been able to weather through this storm here. And
in fact, look, I'll add to that. I think that the fact that the demographic was so high, so old, let's call it, probably allowed for the governor to focus on something else than confining people. Maybe he said, you know what, we gotta secure more vaccines. We gotta be able to. I mean, Florida is one of the major states that's vaccinating the quickest, right? I mean, in Quebec, unfortunately, we were thinking, about safeguarding hospitals, and most of our deaths come from senior citizen homes, and our government wasn't busy looking for vaccines. They were busy trying to find excuses on how to control people. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, we don't have the vaccines. We have more deaths. And our demographic isn't as old as Florida. So I'm actually surprised, I
agree.
Kudos to the governor who saw it, the right way.
Well, I think it was a gamble in the beginning, right? He was rolling the dice. It was a 50-50 chance of his plan would ultimately prevail or it would fail. Right? And so again, I'm not sure.
Sometimes it's all about the analysis, right? I mean, look at Israel. I mean, Israel's the most vaccinated country in the world, right? I mean, once you realize why they are, you say, geez, how come we didn't think about that, right? How come we didn't call Pfizer up, and say, hey, we'll give you all of the data from all of the vaccinations we've done so you can use it as your human testing results, type of thing. I mean, I'd never thought about that, and I'm in the medical space. I said, geez, we should have thought about that. Why didn't we do it, right? So everything you do is a gamble. But, calculated risk is also a gamble, but it's a calculated risk. And I think that's what Florida did, and it, paid off.
So switching gears a little bit, I don't know what the concept looks like, what the theater concept looks like in Canada, but obviously here in the U.S., I don't know the percentages, but the large percentage of theaters are attached to enclosed malls. Is that a very similar concept in Canada as well?
The older locations, yes. The newer locations are freestanding buildings with their own entrance, door front to the road, just because movie theaters stay open a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
And so the mall operators didn't want to keep all of their malls open, right, till midnight or 2 a.m. on a Saturday night when their stores had closed at 6 o'clock. We have stricter closing. If I look at Florida, malls are open almost 24 hours, right? So, so we've gone for street front locations versus in mall locations.
I'm assuming that the downward trends with enclosed malls is probably very similar in Canada as it is here in the U.S. I mean, it's kind of been a dying breed for probably a decade plus. Do you see any of the well, let me ask you this first: is that the same similar trend in Canada? Are enclosed malls kind of going the way of the dodo bird, or is it still a very popular concept aside from theaters themselves, but just enclosed malls?
So in the suburbs, I would tell you the power centers, as we call them, are gaining the favor of everybody. In the downtown core, where you've got this, high density concentration of people, you still have the malls because
right.
you
don't have the room for the power centers.
Yeah, you don't have the room for all of those parking facilities and so forth and so forth. So everything's underground. So you're just stacking stuff on top of each other. But you are right. Even though it's so much colder than it is in most of the U.S. states, we also like the power center concept where you go straight to the store you want and then you can leave.
Yeah, because where I was going with that, which it might not be a relevant question, is is the downward trend of enclosed malls, is that ultimately is that affecting those theaters that are attached there to where the new model of a standalone away from the mall or in a completely different location, that is the future. But are the ones that are still attached to the malls, are they still doing as well? Again, pre-COVID, were they doing as well as their brothers and sisters that were detached?
So they're being punished on a balance sheet level because your CAM costs are skyrocketingly high when it comes to enclosed malls. You might be talking about the equivalent of your square footage rental just in CAM costs. Yeah. And then the other problem was that normally you put a theater in two places, either on the last floor of the mall or at the basement of the mall. And those are two places that people don't like to really go, sort of. If you look at it on a retail per square footage sale, the 7th floor of a mall isn't the most popular place for people to go just because of, people want to, get through the door and be where they want to go. They don't want to have to walk, half a mile to get to, the 6th floor or something. So I would tell you in the downtown core, they're still very popular, like I said, because there is no alternative, right, to the in-mall theater. But the cost of running those theaters is skyrocketed much higher because of the CAM costs, and by consequence, they're less profitable theaters.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. The CAM cost. You're right. That's a good perspective there, which I did not consider. So very interesting. How about any alternative concepts? Again, we're talking. I guess it's really geographically specific because Canada. 6 months out of the year is pleasant weather, but the other 6 months is not so pleasant as far as being outdoors. I know that certain parts of the U.S., at least during the summertime, there was a big spin up of the drive-in movie concept, the drive-in theater concept, or outdoor venues where movies are being shown. Do you think that's something that sticks around? I remember growing up, drive-in theaters there was like two within probably a 15-mile proximity of where I grew up, and there was regular theaters as well. But it was a concept that existed alongside of a normal indoor theater. You think that there's some type of comeback with drive-in theaters as a result of COVID?
So one of the top 3 drive-ins in North America is in the suburbs of Montreal. So drive-ins, as much as they've been claimed to be dead, they still exist. Will they create a comeback? The biggest problem with a drive-in is the space it takes. It takes, to have a 5-screen drive-in or a 6-screen drive-in takes way more room than having a 18-screen complex, movie theater complex, right? So your land cost is enormous. Then the other problem is you're being pushed away as a drive-in because of the land cost, the land value. You're being offered to operate, let's say, from May to, call it October. You make money, but the land value is worth just selling it and retiring off what you're selling, because now it's like the Cinemark. No, sorry, it's the Sumner Redstone, National Amusement Story, that he had drive-ins, and then as the cities in New England grew and grew and grew, they bumped into these drive-ins, and now the land was worth more to put a mall there or a theater there than it was to have a drive-in, right? Most drive-ins found themselves to be in what, at least in Canada, in a more rural agricultural area.
Yeah.
The minute big city hits there, it's over,
yeah.
right? So, and then the other problem is it depends on the extreme. As long as you have, it's very awkward because in Canada, drive-ins are really popular in June, July, August. But yet those are the warmest months. Those are the ones that are the most uncomfortable. So I would have thought that April, May, and September, October would have been great because, you got a cool breeze. You can actually be believe that you're in nature in some form of a way, right? Type of thing. But ultimately, I think a few drive-ins will be built on a nostalgia basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will do very well. But will there be a huge resurgence in drive-ins? I don't think so. I think people will go back to the comfort of air conditioning, on a hot, a summer day. And when it's cold outside, they'd rather be in a warm theater than in a car that can't idle necessarily, and et cetera, et cetera. So
no, very valid points there. Yeah, and speaking to the higher and better use of that land, I mean, the two that I was talking about growing up, I mean, both of those were redeveloped many, many years ago into both of them shopping centers, not malls but strip centers.
Yeah.
So very interesting. So how about streaming networks, right? I mean, Netflix and Hulu, Prime, now Peacock, which took away my favorite show from Netflix, The Office. I was so sad on January 1st. I was so happy the new year. I was so sad that The Office went away from Netflix and went to Peacock. But anyway, that's just my own personal issues. Talk about these streaming networks, and there'll be more to come. It's inevitable. How they impacted the movie theater industry, and also at present time, but also in the future. Like how do the two compete for really the same eyeballs, very similar eyeballs?
Well, so you have to remember that movie theaters have been competing with some form of in-home entertainment for about 120 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were there, and then the radio, and then, radio was replaced by black and white TV, and then color TV, and then cable, and then VHS, and then, DVD, and now streaming, right? So, and the truth of the matter is, whether you call it streaming, whether you call it cable, whether you call it whatever, it's nothing else but TV, really, presented to you in a different format. Mm-hmm. The fact that people are saying, yeah, I know, but, kids are watching on their iPhones, kids are watching on their iPads, on their computers. Yeah, that's because they're forced to, because their dad or their mom wants to watch something else on TV. Because my kids, I have 5 of them, they kick me out of the living room and they watch on TV. They're not looking on their iPads or anything. And so ultimately, I'll bring you back to when TV was about to in some form or another be annihilated for movie theaters. And then somebody created the first reality show. And now all of a sudden TV came back in a big way, American Idol, this, that, and it was crazy. And now I would tell you 25% of, conventional TV is probably a reality show. And on streaming platforms, probably closer to 75% is reality based, right? So at the end of the day, content is king.
Mm-hmm.
What does that content cost you? What is your talent in storytelling? A lot of people don't realize that going to the movies is a quick fix. It's like that Mickey of alcohol that you got with you for that quick fix moment. It's a 2-hour story, and I got to tell you from A to Z in 2 hours. And then you leave. And then you can go back to your normal life. Streaming platforms are about binge watching. That's 3 days, 4 days worth of your life. That's more of it's more of a buffet kind of meal where you're like eating and, over exaggerating and overindulging. 2 different ways of storytelling. One's got the time to build. The other one's got to give you. And the big difference between the two, I think, is one is assuming that you actually love staying at home, that you have the perfect home, that you have the 70-inch TV with the Dolby sound system, and but that is not reality. Most people don't have that. right? So I don't think the two are competitive. They are competitive for the attention of people, but I don't think people are evaluating them the same way. I think what really hurt movie theaters is this continuous, redundant way of thinking that every movie needs to be priced exactly the same as the other movie. So whether it's a Woody Allen movie, whether it's the latest Marvel movie, they're all the same price. No price discrimination, because we don't want to offend creators in that by charging less for a movie, it means your movie's not as good. And I think that that model is going to change. I think people are going to have to realize that it is better to charge $6 for a Woody Allen than it is $12, because you probably get more eyeballs to come into the Woody Allen movie. And what you'll get is probably a better reaction from people where they'll feel they got their money's worth at $6. Because, that's the ultimate problem, right? Is that you watch a movie and you're comparing it to what you paid for it and whether it was worth your buck or not. But if you drop the price, you're also dropping the expectation level. If you drop the expectation level, you'd be surprised on how many people will say, hey, you know what? That was an okay movie for $5. And so we noticed that on the weekends, people usually will go for the number one commercial picture that's out there. And then Tuesday night special, which is half price Tuesdays, people will go for the more secondary pictures and they'll give it a shot. Why? Because it's half price. So
that's a good point.
When it's a discount, right?
Yeah.
So I can live with that. That's why people don't get as upset about spending money on Netflix, even though only 10% of their content is really worth watching. The other 90 is just filler, right? But you don't feel as bad because what the hell? It cost me $9.99 for the whole package. It doesn't matter. I just wasted an hour of my time, but didn't cost me more money. So people give more latitude to TV because it seems to be free. My problem is if you start adding Netflix, Crave, Amazon, Hulu, and whatever, you're now at a very expensive in-home entertainment package.
And I'll tell you, my wife and I, we love movies. We'll probably, 2 nights a week, once we get the kids down, we'll try to find a movie. And I'll tell you that I've wasted more hours in my life over the past probably 10 years trying to find a damn movie that's worth watching on Netflix or Prime. I mean, something that's new that, that catches our attention. I sit there and watch trailers and it's like, then you start the movie and it's not all that great. And,
right.
My wife pushes me every month probably to cancel Netflix because we go through this frustration of trying to find the right movie, and maybe 1 out of every 5 or something like that. It's okay. We'll watch it. And maybe 1 out of 10 is actually we actually look at each other at the end of it and say, that was a great movie. Glad we watched that.
And, a lot of people don't realize that, the United States makes roughly 400 movies a year. Only 80 of them get to theaters, really. So now, try and imagine if out of those 80 that do make it to theater, if half of them are, could have been better, or they should have done, there's always a comment to make. Imagine the 320 that didn't make it to theater, what the thinking was behind why they didn't make it to theaters. And now here you are searching on a platform thinking you're going to find the next Avenger or the next Titanic or the next, a Gladiator movie. And in reality, you're really like a little disappointed, right? So,
good point.
So like I said, my expectation levels when I watch streaming is as low as possible. And sometimes I get surprised and I'm happy and I say, wow, this was actually not bad. It actually entertained me for a few hours.
Switching gears again one more time, and then we're going to work to wrap this up. Be respectful of your time here, Vince. In the movie theater cinema business, what is the most profitable line item? So you got different streams of revenue. You got the ticket sales, you've got food. What else? You've got maybe arcades. You've got a specialty, like IMAX and things like that. I don't know if that's its own independent line item, what have you. But what is the most profitable, if you don't mind sharing, in the cinema business?
So I would tell you if you're willing to invest the capital in actually buying your arcade machines, that's where you have your highest profit margin. After that, it's your concession stand. And then obviously, last and least is your ticket sales. And those upcharges or actually you can call them loss leaders to attract people, the novelty aspect or whatever of the business. But, you're not really drawing in that many more people if you're starting to upcharge them for 3D or for, Dolby Atmos or whatever. There comes a point where the quality level of the presentation becomes almost too much, and too much is sometimes like not enough. So like you don't even want to go there. Like there's some movies that are just worth watching in IMAX. Other movies, Rich Gelfond and I have this discussion often, like, why would we do an animated in IMAX? Like, most families don't want to pay the extra $3 or $5 upcharge. So why would we even go there? It's not, but do I want to watch a Star Wars in IMAX? Yeah. Do I want to watch a Lord of the Rings in IMAX? Hell yeah. That's the kind of stuff that you do. Those are the epic pictures, and that's what IMAX is about. But to think we're going to, I always tell people, if you're going to offer a 3D picture, it's got to be thought out in 3D. It's got to be written out in 3D. It's not about imposing a 3D treatment to the movie, because 2D is 2D, right? If you and I are having a sword fight and we're thinking of a conventional movie, you're probably getting a side view of us fighting. If you're thinking 3D, I'm the camera or you're the camera, and now the swords coming have to actually be piercing towards the client, right? So now it looks like, oh my God. But if you haven't thought that out and you think you're going to rip people off and charge $3 more for a 2D converted 3D movie, that's not going to happen. And the studios are greedier and greedier. So film rental is expensive versus the cost of food and the cost of arcade.
I'm actually really surprised that arcades are number one. I would have guessed that concessions were number one. So that's quite interesting. And you'd mentioned that owning your own machines versus, I guess, leasing them through a gaming vendor, right? That probably has a profit split,
a revenue share
type arrangement.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, if you do the revenue share, you're probably at the same return on same investment or same margins as ticket sales, and then obviously your concession counter becomes the primary source of profit. It's not your primary source of revenue, but it is your primary source of profit, right? So we sort of tell ourselves that box office will pay for the upkeep of everything. It'll pay labor, it'll pay cost of electricity, and so forth and so forth. And so your profit comes from your concession stand. Most theaters, so all theaters have concession stands. So your understanding or your belief that concession was number one is probably because every single theater has a concession stand. Not every theater has 10, 15,000 square feet of arcade space. But if you do, that's a huge profit generator.
Interesting. Okay. Moving on here, last question before we wrap it up, Vince. Everyone always talks, you've been an entrepreneur and a businessman your entire adult life. And, everyone always talks about the good deals, right? The one that we made the most money on, had the highest ROI, what have you. But very few people ever talk about the ones that got away from you, the ones that, kept you up all night long. And being an entrepreneur, most any venture keeps you up at some point in time, right? It stresses you out. It's got different levels of stress, but there's a couple in our back of our minds that had like that 10x level of stress, right? What's the one that comes to mind? The one just that if you could go back and start over again, you wouldn't have done that deal. What was it? What happened? And what would you have done the second time around?
Well, let's put it this way. So this is my right hand, and you see all of the bracelets I'm wearing? These are all the mistakes I think I've done. This is my left hand, and look at, these are all the good deals I've done. I've done a lot more mistakes than I have done good deals. I would tell you one of the deals that I regret the most not making is not being an early investor in Supreme New York, who sold for $2.2 billion not too long ago. So I had an opportunity about 15 years ago to put money in that company, and I didn't.
What was that? So, what was Supreme New York? I'm not familiar.
Supreme is the street brand. It now got bought out by North Face and Timberland. So it's basically a
outdoor gear.
It's sort of a street brand, skater brand. It's a very it's a fashion brand, and it's they're called Supreme, and everything's red, and it's sort of so. when I was presented that brand, I looked at it and I said, you guys are insane if you think these guys on skateboards are going to, one day be worth, this kind of money. And they did. But apart from that, the deals that I did do, whatever mistake I did, I managed to turn the mistake into a learning lesson. And at the end of the day, I don't regret doing the deals. But it's the ones you didn't do that I regret. And even investing in Tom Brown, who's one of my favorite designers, it was an easy investment. We said no, and they're now worth $800 million. So, once again, made a mistake on that one.
Vince, for those that want to learn more about you and the different ventures you have going on and just to keep up to date, where's the best place to find you?
You can go on MrSunshine.com. You'll get updates on me. I get updates on my company, on various reality shows that I'm involved with. And even this podcast can be on there because we actually try and put all of the stuff that I do just to keep people up to date on everything.
Yeah, and guys, I'll make sure I put all the links, places you can find Vince in the show notes as well. And so, Vince, with that, that's all we have. Really appreciate you joining us here today. It's been a lot of fun, a great conversation, and wishing you and your family and your companies all the best here in 2021. And hopefully look forward to getting back to some type of normalcy here in the very near future.
Soon enough. I hope so too. Thank you for having me.
Alrighty, guys, that's all we have for this week's show. So until we meet again next week, this is your host, Kevin Buff, wishing you huge success. Take care now.
Congratulations! Now you've got more of the best tricks of the trade in building massive amounts of passive income from real estate. For more amazing resources, visit realestateinvestingforcashflow.com. We'll see you next Monday morning.